The human diplomatic vessel Sol's Promise was nothing like the sterile Valtorian ships Nara had traveled on before. The walls were painted in warm colors, and crew members smiled and greeted each other in the hallways. It felt alive in a way Valtorian ships never did. Nara stood at the window of their shared quarters staring out at the stars. 3 weeks had passed since the wedding, and she still felt like she was living in a dream. Dae-hyun had been patient and kind, never pushing her, always giving her space. But she could see the concern in his eyes when he thought she wasn't looking. "You're thinking too much again," Dae-hyun said, coming to stand beside her. He held 2 cups of tea, offering her one. She took it, grateful for the warmth. "I'm sorry, I know I have been poor company." "You haven't," he said gently. "But you've seemed sad. Is there anything I can do to help?" Nara looked down at her tea. How could she explain the weight she carried? The knowledge that she had ruined his life by existing? "In Valtorian culture," she began slowly, "our worth is measured by what we contribute to the continuation of our species. Strong genetics, healthy offspring, the expansion of our bloodline. I was raised believing these things were the only things that mattered." She paused, her throat tight. "When the physicians declared me infertile, my entire purpose disappeared. My father stopped looking at me. My sisters avoided me. I became invisible." Dae-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "On Earth we have a saying. We believe that every person is valuable simply because they exist, not because of what they can do or produce, but because they are alive and unique. There has never been another person exactly like you, Nara, and there never will be again. That makes you irreplaceable." Tears stung Nara's eyes. She had never heard such words before. "How can you believe that when I have failed at the most basic function of my biology?" "Because biology doesn't define worth," Dae-hyun said firmly. "Look, I'm not a soldier. I'm not strong or fast. By Valtorian standards, I'm probably considered weak. But I'm good at understanding people, at finding solutions through words instead of force. Does that make me worthless?" "No," Nara said immediately. "You're brilliant. You saw through my father's trap when others would have missed it." "Exactly," Dae-hyun said with a small smile. "We all have different gifts. Yours just haven't been discovered yet because your people were too focused on one narrow definition of value." Over the following weeks, Dae-hyun introduced Nara to human culture. He showed her music that made her heart ache with beauty. He gave her books filled with stories about people who overcame impossible odds. He took her to the ship's observation deck where crew members gathered informally to share meals and laughter. At first, Nara was nervous around the other humans. She expected judgment, pity, or worse. But the crew treated her with easy acceptance. Tae-yang, Dae-hyun's younger brother who worked as a shuttle pilot, was especially welcoming. "My brother says you've never tried chocolate," Tae-yang said one day, grinning as he handed her a small brown square. "This is a crime that must be corrected immediately." Nara tasted it hesitantly, then her eyes widened. The rich, sweet flavor was unlike anything she'd experienced. "This is wonderful, right?" Tae-yang laughed. "Earth has the best food in the galaxy. We might not have the biggest ships or the strongest weapons, but nobody beats our cuisine." It was such a simple moment, but it made Nara feel something she hadn't felt in years. She felt like she belonged. One evening, Dr. Hana, the ship's physician, approached Nara with a request. She was a kind woman with sharp eyes and gentle hands. "Princess Nara," she began. "Just Nara, please." "Nara," Dr. Hana corrected with a smile. "I wanted to ask if you would be willing to let me conduct some medical scans. Not to fix anything," she added quickly, seeing Nara's expression close off. "Just out of scientific curiosity. We've never had the chance to study Valtorian biology before. It would help us understand your people better and improve diplomatic relations." Nara hesitated. The memory of endless medical tests, of physicians, shaking their heads and marking her as defective, still haunted her. But Dr. Hana's interest seemed genuine, not judgmental. "All right," Nara agreed, "but I can tell you what the results will show." The Valtorian physicians were very thorough. "I'm sure they were," Dr. Hana said, "but sometimes a fresh perspective can reveal new things. The scans took several hours. Dr. Hana was professional and kind throughout, explaining each procedure. When it was over, she told Nara the results would take a few days to analyze. "Thank you for trusting me with this," Dr. Hana said warmly. That night, Daehyun suggested they watch a human film together. It was an old movie about a woman who opened a chocolate shop in a small town and changed everyone's lives through her kindness and acceptance. Halfway through, Nara realized she was crying. Not from sadness, but from a strange bittersweet emotion she couldn't name. "Are you okay?" Daehyun asked, concerned. "I'm fine," Nara said, wiping her eyes. "It's just that watching this makes me realize how much I've missed. On Valtoria, everything is about duty and perfection. There's no room for simple kindness or joy. I never knew life could be like this." Daehyun reached over and took her hand. It was the most intimate gesture he'd made since their wedding, and Nara's breath caught. His hand was warm and solid, anchoring her. "You can have this life now," he said softly, "if you want it." "I do," Nara whispered. "I want it very much." A month after the wedding, they traveled to Earth. Nara stood at the shuttle window as the blue and green planet came into view, her heart pounding with nervousness and excitement. Earth was beautiful. The sky was a brilliant blue. The air smelled fresh and alive, and everywhere she looked, she saw plants and trees and flowers in countless shades of green. Valtoria was a world of grays and silvers, orderly and controlled. Earth was wild and vibrant and overwhelming. Daehyun's family welcomed her with open arms. His parents didn't flinch at her blue skin or strange eyes. They hugged her and told her they were happy to have her as family. His grandmother made her traditional Korean food and laughed when Nara tried kimchi for the first time and nearly coughed from the spice. "You'll get used to it," his grandmother promised, her eyes twinkling. "Everything is strange at first, but then it becomes home." That night, Daehyun took Nara to the beach. They walked along the shore as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The waves rolled in with a steady rhythm, and Nara felt something inside her begin to heal. "Thank you," she said suddenly, "for everything, for accepting me, for being patient, for showing me that life can be more than duty and disappointment." "You don't have to thank me," Daehyun said. "I should thank you. You've taught me about courage. You've faced so much pain and rejection, but you're still here, still trying. That's strength, Nara." She looked at him in the fading light. This human man who had shown her more kindness than her own family ever had. Without thinking, she leaned in and kissed him. It was gentle and tentative, a question more than a statement. Daehyun kissed her back, his arms coming around her carefully. When they pulled apart, they were both smiling. "I think I'm falling in love with you," Nara admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I'm falling in love with you," Daehyun replied. As they stood together on the beach, the waves washing over their feet, Nara felt truly happy for the first time in years. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time she looked forward to finding out. She had found a home, not in a place, but in a person who saw her worth when the rest of the galaxy had declared her worthless. And that was more valuable than any throne or title could ever be. The conference room on Concordia Station felt cold despite the regulated temperature. Daehyun sat across from the Valtorian delegation, his hands folded calmly on the glass table. The aliens were tall, nearly 7 feet each, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their eyes were large and dark, showing no emotion as they stared at him. Ambassador Jiwoo sat beside Daehyun, her face carefully neutral. She had warned him about this meeting. The Valtorian Empire controlled half the known galaxy. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for 30 years. They were small, weak and vulnerable compared to the Empire. "We offer an alliance," the lead Valtorian said. His voice was smooth and cold. "A marriage between our peoples. Princess Nara, third daughter of King Theron, will become the bride of a human representative." Daehyun heard Jiwoo's sharp intake of breath beside him. He kept his expression calm, but his mind raced. A marriage alliance sounded promising, but something felt wrong about how easily they offered it. "Princess Nara," Jiwoo said carefully, "we are honored by this proposal. May we know more about the princess?" The Valtorian's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. She is 200 years old, well-educated, and of royal blood. However, we must be honest with our potential allies. The princess is infertile. She cannot produce heirs. This is why she is available for this union. The words hung in the air like a trap. Daehyun understood immediately. This wasn't an honor. This was an insult disguised as diplomacy. The Valtorians expected humanity to refuse. They were offering a defective princess, knowing humans would reject her. Then they could claim humanity had refused their generous offer and use it as an excuse for aggression. Jiwoo's face had gone pale. She opened her mouth to speak, probably to politely decline, but Daehyun spoke first. "I accept." The room went silent. Every head turned toward him, human and Valtorian alike. Jiwoo grabbed his arm under the table, her fingers tight with warning. "Daehyun," she whispered urgently, "we need to discuss this." "There's nothing to discuss," Daehyun said, looking directly at the Valtorian delegation. "I accept the proposal. I will marry Princess Nara." The lead Valtorian's expression flickered with surprise, then quickly smoothed back to neutrality. "You understand the princess cannot give you children?" "I understand," Daehyun said calmly. "Marriage is about partnership, not just reproduction. If humanity is to be allies with the Valtorian Empire, we should start with respect. Princess Nara deserves respect regardless of her fertility." The Valtorian delegation exchanged glances. They hadn't expected this. Their trap had failed, and now they had to follow through with the marriage or lose face themselves. "Very well," the lead Valtorian said slowly. "We will arrange the ceremony. You will meet the princess tomorrow." After the Valtorians left, Jiwoo turned on Daehyun. "What were you thinking? This could be a disaster." "It would have been a disaster if we refused," Daehyun said quietly. "They were testing us. If we rejected their princess because she can't have children, we would have failed. They would have called us shallow and used it as an excuse to treat us as inferior." Jiwoo stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. "You might be right. But you just agreed to marry an alien princess you've never met." "I know," Daehyun said, and for the first time he felt the weight of what he'd done settle on his shoulders. The next day, Daehyun was taken to a private garden on the station. It was designed to look like a Valtorian landscape, with strange purple plants and pale stone pathways. At the center, sitting on a bench, was Princess Nara. She was smaller than the other Valtorians he'd seen, closer to 6 feet tall. Her skin was the same pale blue, but there was something delicate about her features. She wore a simple dress in silver gray, and her long dark hair fell straight down her back. When she looked up at him, her large eyes were full of sadness. "You must be the human who accepted," she said softly. Her English was perfect, barely accented. "I'm Daehyun," he said, sitting beside her on the bench. "It's nice to meet you, princess." "Nara," she said. "Just Nara. I am hardly a princess anymore." She looked away from him toward the purple plants. "You made a mistake accepting this marriage. I will bring you nothing but shame." "Why would you bring me shame?" "Because I am broken," Nara said simply. "In Valtorian culture, a female who cannot bear children has no value. I have been tested by the Empire's best physicians. My condition cannot be fixed. You have married yourself to a defective woman. Your people will mock you." Daehyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "My people have a different view. We believe every person has value, regardless of what they can or cannot do. You are not broken, Nara, you're just different." She turned to look at him, surprise in her dark eyes. "You truly believe that?" "I do," he said. "And I meant what I said yesterday. Marriage should be about partnership and respect. If you're willing, I'd like to get to know you. Not as a political arrangement, but as people." For the first time, something softened in Nara's expression. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. "You are very strange for a human." "I'll take that as a compliment," Daehyun said, and this time she did smile, just a little. The wedding ceremony took place a week later. It was a small affair, combining both human and Valtorian traditions. Nara wore white, as humans preferred, but with silver Valtorian symbols woven into the fabric. Daehyun wore a dark suit with a traditional Valtorian sash across his chest. As they spoke their vows, Daehyun watched Nara's face. She looked nervous and uncertain, but also hopeful. He realized she had probably never expected anyone to treat her with kindness after her diagnosis. The Valtorians had labeled her as worthless, and she had believed them. When the ceremony ended, they were officially married. Ambassador Jiwoo hugged him tightly and whispered, "Be good to her. She looks like she needs someone who will be kind." "I will," Daehyun promised. As they left the ceremony hall, Nara's hand was small and cold in his. She walked stiffly like she expected him to reject her at any moment. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," she admitted. "This is all very strange. I never thought I would marry at all." "We'll figure it out together," Daehyun said. "No pressure, no expectations. We'll just take it one day at a time." Nara looked up at him, and this time her smile was real. "Thank you, Daehyun. You have no idea what your kindness means to me." But he thought he did understand. In a galaxy that measured worth by power and perfection, both of them were considered lesser. Humanity was weak and new. Nara was infertile and discarded. Perhaps that was why they could understand each other. They both knew what it felt like to be underestimated. As they walked through the station together, neither of them knew that this simple act of kindness would change the fate of two civilizations. They only knew that for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt quite so alone. 6 months had passed since the wedding. Nara woke up feeling strange. Her stomach unsettled in a way she'd never experienced before. She tried to ignore it, thinking perhaps she'd eaten something that disagreed with her. But as the days went on, the feeling grew worse. She felt tired all the time, even after a full night's sleep. Foods she normally enjoyed suddenly made her feel sick, and there was a strange tenderness in her body that she couldn't explain. Daehyun noticed immediately. He always noticed when something was wrong. "You need to see Dr. Hana," he said one morning, watching with concern as Nara pushed away her breakfast untouched. "It's nothing," Nara insisted, probably just stress from the upcoming diplomatic meetings. But when she fainted during a conference 2 days later, Daehyun insisted. He carried her to the medical bay himself, his face pale with worry. Dr. Hana ran her scanner over Nara's body, her expression focused and professional. Then she stopped, her eyes widening. She ran the scanner again, then a third time. "What is it?" Nara asked, fear creeping into her voice. "What's wrong with me?" Dr. Hana looked at her, then at Daehyun, her expression somewhere between shock and wonder. "Nothing is wrong with you, Nara. You're pregnant." The words hung in the air like something impossible. Nara stared at the doctor, unable to process what she'd just heard. "That's not possible," she said finally. "I'm infertile. I've been tested hundreds of times. This must be a mistake." "It's not a mistake," Dr. Hana said gently. "I've run the scan 3 times. There's a fetus in your womb, approximately 6 weeks developed. It's healthy and growing normally." Daehyun had gone completely still beside her. "How?" he whispered. "The Valtorian physician said it was impossible." "I don't know yet," Dr. Hana admitted. "But I'd like to run more tests with your permission. This could be a major scientific discovery." Nara felt dizzy. Pregnant, she was pregnant. After 200 years of being told her body was broken, that she would never carry a child. The impossible had happened. "I need to call Dr. Minseo," Dr. Hana said, already moving toward her communication panel. "She's our genetic specialist. This is beyond my expertise." The next few hours passed in a blur. Dr. Minseo arrived quickly, her excitement barely contained. She was a small woman with quick movements and sharp intelligence. She ran test after test, taking samples and running analyses while muttering to herself in rapid Korean. Finally, she sat down with Nara and Daehyun, her expression amazed. "This is incredible," she began. "The child you're carrying is biologically both human and Valtorian. The genetic integration is perfect, seamless. I've never seen anything like it, but how?" Nara asked, her hand instinctively moving to her still flat stomach. "The Valtorian physicians tested me with every male in the royal bloodline. None of them were compatible." Dr. Minseo pulled up a holographic display showing strands of DNA. "That's because they were only testing you with Valtorian males. The issue was never with you, Nara. It was with Valtorian genetic compatibility. Your people's DNA is incredibly specific, designed for genetic perfection, but that specificity made it rigid and flexible." She highlighted sections of the display. "Human DNA, on the other hand, is incredibly adaptive. We evolved on a harsh planet with constantly changing conditions. Our genetics learned to be flexible, to adapt and integrate with different environments. When your DNA met Daehyun's, something remarkable happened. The human genetic flexibility was able to bridge the gaps that Valtorian genetics couldn't. So I was never infertile." Nara said slowly, tears streaming down her face. I was just incompatible with my own species. Exactly, Dr. Minseo confirmed. Your genetics were waiting for something flexible enough to work with. Human DNA provided that flexibility. Daehyun pulled Nara close and she buried her face in his shoulder, sobbing. Years of shame and grief poured out of her. All the pain, all the rejection, all the belief that she was broken and worthless had been based on a misunderstanding. She wasn't defective. She had just needed the right partner. Are you happy? Daehyun asked softly, holding her tight. I don't know, Nara sobbed. I'm overwhelmed, terrified, amazed, everything at once. That's fair, he said, and she could hear the emotion in his voice too. I feel the same way. When Nara had calmed down enough to think clearly again, reality began to set in. We can't tell anyone, she said suddenly. If word gets out, if my father learns about this, he'll want the child, Daehyun finished grimly. An heir to the Valtorian throne, proof that his bloodline can continue. Dr. Hana and Dr. Minseo exchanged worried glances. We'll keep this confidential, Dr. Hana promised. Only essential medical staff will know and we'll swear them to secrecy. Thank you, Nara said. I just need time to think, to process this before it becomes a political situation. Over the next few weeks, Nara adjusted to the idea of becoming a mother. The morning sickness faded, replaced by a strange sense of wonder. There was a life growing inside her, a child that was part her and part Daehyun, a child that represented everything she'd been told she could never have. Daehyun was constantly amazed and nervous. He read every piece of human literature about pregnancy he could find, trying to prepare himself. He made sure Nara ate well, rested enough, and wasn't stressed. He talked to her stomach at night, introducing himself to their daughter. How do you know it's a daughter? Nara asked, amused. I just have a feeling, Daehyun said, his hand gentle on her stomach. He was right. Dr. Minseo confirmed it during the next scan. A girl healthy and developing perfectly. The genetic integration was flawless, creating something entirely new, a bridge between two species. She's beautiful, Dr. Minseo said, showing them the image. The genetic combination has given her the best traits of both species. Stronger than a human, more adaptable than a Valtorian. Nara stared at the image of her daughter, her heart full of a fierce, protective love. This child would never know the shame and rejection she had faced. This child would be loved and valued for exactly who she was. But their peace couldn't last forever. 1 month after the discovery, Ambassador Jiwoo came to their quarters, her face grave. We have a problem, she said. There's been a leak. Someone at the research station, where we first ran the tests, talked to a Valtorian contact. Rumors are spreading that Princess Nara is pregnant. Nara felt her blood run cold. How much do they know? Everything, Jiwoo said. The genetic compatibility, the implications for Valtorian fertility, all of it. The information has reached Valtorian intelligence networks. My father knows, Nara whispered. We have to assume so, Jiwoo confirmed. And if he knows, he'll act. This child represents everything the Valtorian Empire values. A royal heir, proof that their bloodline can continue. He'll want to claim the child as Valtorian property. Daehyun stood up, his jaw set. The child is ours. We're not giving her up. I'm not suggesting you should, Jiwoo said, but we need to prepare for the consequences. King Theron is not a man who accepts defiance lightly. That night, Nara lay awake, her hand on her growing stomach. Inside her, their daughter moved and kicked, unaware of the storm that was coming. Nara had finally found happiness, found love, found purpose, and now the galaxy was about to tear it all away from her. I won't let him take her, she whispered into the darkness. I won't let him take either of you. Beside her, Daehyun took her hand. We'll fight this together, he promised. All of humanity will stand with us. But they both knew that humanity was small and weak compared to the Valtorian Empire. The question wasn't whether they would fight. The question was whether they could possibly win. In the depths of space far from Earth, King Theron sat on his throne and read the intelligence report again. His third daughter, the defective one, was carrying an heir. A viable, healthy heir created with human genetics. He smiled coldly. The humans had given him exactly what he needed. Proof that his bloodline could continue, and justification to bring his wayward daughter home. One way or another, that child would be raised as a Valtorian royal, as was proper. The storm was coming, and neither side would back down without a fight. The message from the Valtorian Empire arrived 3 days after Ambassador Jiwoo's warning. It was formal, cold, and absolutely terrifying in its implications. Princess Nara, the message began, displayed on the holographic screen in their quarters. Your father, King Theron, has learned of your condition. He requests your immediate return to Valtoria for proper prenatal care. The heir you carry is of royal blood and must be protected by the Empire's finest physicians. A diplomatic escort will arrive within 2 weeks to retrieve you. Nara read the message 3 times, her hands shaking. Request was a polite word, but she knew it was a command. Her father didn't make requests. He made demands and crushed anyone who refused. They want to take you, Daehyun said, his voice tight with anger. They want to imprison you and take our daughter. I know, Nara whispered. She was 4 months pregnant now, her stomach showing a small but definite curve. She placed both hands over it protectively. If I go back, I'll never see you again. They'll take her the moment she's born and raise her as a pure Valtorian. You'll become a footnote in her history, the human who served his genetic purpose. Then we don't let you go back, Daehyun said firmly. You're a human citizen now through marriage. Earth won't surrender you. But they both knew it wasn't that simple. Earth had been a spacefaring civilization for only 30 years. The Valtorian Empire had controlled the galaxy for thousands. If it came to a conflict, humanity would be crushed. Ambassador Jiwoo called an emergency meeting with Earth's government. Nara and Daehyun attended via secure video link, along with top military and political leaders. The situation is delicate, President Hansol said, his aged face grave on the screen. If we refuse to return Princess Nara, it could be seen as an act of war. The Valtorian Empire could use this as justification to invade human space. With respect, Mr. President, Daehyun said, they're going to find a reason to invade eventually anyway. They see us as inferior. But if we surrender Nara and our child, we prove them right. We show the galaxy that humans will abandon their own people when threatened. The boy has a point, Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo said. He was a stern man with iron-gray hair and sharp eyes. We've been preparing for this. The Valtorians will push us eventually. The question is whether we draw the line now or later. But can we win? Someone asked. Their fleet outnumbers us 10-1. We don't need to win, the Admiral said. We need to make it too costly for them to attack. Show them that taking one pregnant woman will cost them more than she's worth. Nara listened to them debate her fate and felt sick. All these people, all these lives, potentially at risk because of her, because she had dared to be happy, to have a family. Stop, she said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. I won't be the reason for a war. I'll send a message to my father. I'll try to negotiate. Nara, no. Daehyun started, but she shook her head. Let me try, she insisted. I know my father. He's not doing this out of love for me or concern for my welfare. He's doing it because he sees my child as his property, as proof his bloodline is strong. Maybe I can make him see reason. President Hansol nodded slowly. Very well. Draft your message. But Princess, understand that whatever happens, Earth will not abandon you. If negotiations fail, we stand with you. Thank you, Nara said, tears in her eyes. That night, Nara spent hours composing her message. She chose every word carefully, knowing her father would analyze every phrase for weakness. Father, she began, I have received your message. I am grateful for your concern, but I must respectfully decline your invitation to return to Valtoria. I am being cared for by excellent physicians here, and my husband deserves to be present for the birth of his daughter. I understand this child is of royal blood, but she is also human. She belongs to both our peoples, and she should be raised to understand both cultures. I hope you can respect my choice and allow me to raise my family in peace. She sent the message and waited. The response came within hours, and it was not from her father. It was from her brother, Prince Rethik. Sister, the message read, and Nara was surprised by the warmth in his tone. They had never been close. I am sending this message secretly. Father is not well. The news of your pregnancy has made him obsessed. He sees your child not as your daughter, but as his legacy, his proof that our bloodline is superior to all others. He will not accept your refusal. He is already moving the fleet into position near human space. Please be careful. I do not want to see you hurt, but I fear Father will stop at nothing to claim your child. Nara showed the message to Daehyun, her hands trembling. He's sending the fleet. This is really happening. Intelligence Officer Subin confirmed it the next day. "We're detecting massive Valtorian ship movements," she reported, her face serious. "At least 50 warships moving toward the border of human space. They're not trying to hide it. This is a show of force." The news spread quickly through human space. People were frightened, angry, and confused. Why was the powerful Valtorian Empire threatening war over one woman? Ambassador Jiwoo decided to release the truth. In a galaxy-wide broadcast, she explained everything. The marriage, the pregnancy, the genetic compatibility, and King Theron's demand to take Nara and her unborn child. The response was immediate and explosive. Throughout human space, people were outraged. They saw Nara as one of them now, a woman being threatened by a tyrant who wanted to steal her baby. Protests erupted on every human colony. People held signs saying, "Protect Princess Nara, and our family, our choice." But the broadcast had another effect that no one expected. It reached beyond human space, spreading through the neutral zones and even into Valtorian territory. Within the Valtorian Empire, thousands of women who had been declared infertile heard the news with shock and hope. If Princess Nara wasn't really infertile, if she just needed a different genetic partner, did that mean they might not be defective either? Could they have children too if they found the right match? The question spread like wildfire through Valtorian society. Women who had been shamed and cast aside began to speak up. They demanded answers from the physicians who had declared them worthless. They questioned the rigid genetic doctrine that had defined their entire culture. King Theron watched his empire begin to fracture, and his rage grew. This was the humans' fault. They had disrupted the natural order. They had given hope to those who should have accepted their place. They had stolen his daughter and corrupted her with their weak, emotional thinking. He sent a final message to Earth's government. It was short and absolute. Return Princess Nara and the royal heir within 7 days or face the consequences. This is not a negotiation. This is a command. President Han Sol responded with equal firmness. Princess Nara is a citizen of Earth through marriage. She has the right to choose where she lives and how she raises her child. We will not force her to return against her will. If you choose war over peace, that choice is yours, but history will judge you harshly for it. 5 days passed. The Valtorian fleet moved closer to human space. Earth's defensive forces scrambled to prepare, knowing they were vastly outnumbered. Every ship was mobilized. Every defense station was armed. Every colony prepared for potential attack. Nara spent those days in agony, watching the crisis unfold around her. She tried one more time to reach her father directly, begging him to back down, to choose peace over pride. Her message went unanswered. On the 6th day, Taeyang approached her with an unexpected suggestion. "Make a public statement," he said. "Not to your father, to the Valtorian people. Tell them your story. Let them hear directly from you." "What good would that do?" Nara asked, exhausted and frightened. "You'd be surprised," Taeyang said with a slight smile. "Humans aren't the only ones who can be moved by truth." So Nara recorded a message. She stood in front of a camera, her hand on her pregnant stomach, and spoke from her heart. "My name is Nara," she began. "I was born a Valtorian princess, but I was declared defective because I could not bear children. I was given to humans as an insult, as a test of their character. But the humans showed me kindness when my own people showed me only rejection. They taught me that worth is not measured by biology alone, and now I carry a child. Proof that I was never broken, only incompatible with Valtorian genetics. This child is my daughter, mine and my husband's. She is not a political tool. She is not a symbol. She is a person who deserves to be loved and raised in peace. I beg the Valtorian Empire, please let us live in peace." The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Its impact was immediate and profound, especially among Valtorian women who saw themselves in Nara's story. But whether it would be enough to stop a war, no one knew. The fleet continued to advance. War seemed inevitable, and Nara could only wait, hoping that somehow love and truth would be enough to stand against the might of an empire. The 7th day arrived with terrible certainty. The Valtorian fleet hung at the edge of human space like a storm about to break. 50 massive warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had built. On Earth and every human colony, people watched the skies and waited. King Theron sat on his throne, his face carved from stone. Before him, his advisors argued back and forth, but he barely heard them. His mind was fixed on one thing: the heir growing in his daughter's womb. That child carried his bloodline, proof that the Valtorian royal family was still strong and viable. He would not allow humans to steal that from him. Your Majesty, his chief advisor said carefully, perhaps we should reconsider. Princess Nara's broadcast has caused significant unrest among our people. Many are questioning our treatment of infertile women. Some are even calling for peaceful relations with humanity to explore the genetic compatibility further. Silence, Theron snapped. My daughter has been corrupted by human sentimentality. She has forgotten her duty to the Empire. The humans have stolen what belongs to us, and they will return it or face destruction. He stood, his height imposing even among his tall advisors. Send a final message. The humans have until the end of this day to comply. After that, we take what is ours by force. On the human flagship Soul's Promise, Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo read the message and felt the weight of history on his shoulders. He was about to lead humanity's fleet into a battle they couldn't possibly win. But some things were worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. All ships prepare for combat, he ordered. Defensive formation. Protect the colonies and Earth at all costs. Nara sat in her quarters, Dae-hyun beside her, both of them silent. She was nearly 5 months pregnant now, and she could feel her daughter moving inside her. The life they had created together was about to become the spark that lit a war between civilizations. This is my fault, she whispered. All these people are going to die because of me. No, Dae-hyun said firmly, taking her hand. This is happening because your father is a tyrant who sees people as property. Because he can't accept that you have the right to choose your own life. None of this is your fault, Nara. A knock came at the door. Ambassador Jiwoo entered, her face grave but determined. There's someone who wants to speak with you, she said. Your brother, Prince Rethik. He's calling on a secure channel. Nara's heart jumped. She moved to the communication panel and Rethik's face appeared. He looked tired and worried, but there was something else in his expression. Resolve, sister, he said quietly. I don't have much time. Father has locked down all communications, but I have allies who are helping me. I need you to know something. You're not alone. Many Valtorians don't support this war. The officers in Father's fleet are uncomfortable with attacking humans over a family dispute. Some of the nobles are openly questioning Father's judgment. Rethik, please, Nara begged. Can't you stop him? I'm trying, Rethik said. But he's the king, his word is law. However, if things go badly, if he orders an attack that the fleet refuses to follow through, that would be different. That would be proof that he's unfit to rule. Hope flickered in Nara's chest. You would challenge him? If I must, Rethik said. Many support me, but I need the right moment. Until then, be strong, and know that not all Valtorians are your enemy. The communication ended. Nara looked at Dae-hyun, hardly daring to believe what she'd heard. There might be another way. If the Valtorian fleet refused to follow orders, if Rethik could organize a challenge to their father's authority, maybe war could be avoided. But time was running out. The deadline was in 6 hours. Across the galaxy, Nara's message continued to spread. On Valtoria itself, something unprecedented was happening. Women who had been declared infertile were gathering in the capital city, thousands of them. They carried signs and chanted demands. They wanted the truth about their own conditions. They wanted access to human genetic research. They wanted to be treated as people, not as defective machines. The protest was peaceful, but it was massive and growing by the hour. Valtorian authorities didn't know how to handle it. They had never seen such civil disobedience before. Their society was built on order and hierarchy. This chaos was terrifying to them. King Theron watched the protests on his screens and felt his control slipping away. Everything was falling apart because of his defective daughter and her human husband. They had disrupted the natural order. They had to be made an example of, to restore stability. Send the fleet forward, he commanded. Begin the assault. On the flagship of the Valtorian fleet, Admiral Gorath received the order. He was an old soldier, a veteran of a dozen campaigns. He had never questioned an order from his king before. But as he looked at the tactical display, showing the human fleet in defensive formation, something made him hesitate. The humans were vastly outnumbered. They had positioned themselves to protect their colonies, knowing they would be slaughtered. They were choosing to die rather than surrender one woman and her unborn child. That spoke of a loyalty and courage that Gorath had to respect, even if he didn't understand it. Admiral, his second-in-command asked. Your orders? Gorath was silent for a long moment. Then he opened a channel to the entire Valtorian fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Gorath. I want every captain to consider carefully what we're about to do. We are preparing to attack a defensive force that has done nothing to threaten us. We are doing this to take a woman and her unborn child away from her family. Is this what we became soldiers to do? Is this honorable? Admiral, you're out of line, a voice crackled over the command channel. It was one of King Theron's advisors. You will follow orders immediately. I will follow lawful orders, Goreth said calmly. I question whether this order is lawful. I am invoking my right as Fleet Admiral to request clarification from the Council of Nobles before proceeding. It was a legal technicality, a rarely used provision that allowed military commanders to question orders that seemed to violate Valtorian law. But it would buy time, precious minutes or even hours. On Valtoria, Prince Rethic heard about Goreth's challenge and knew this was his moment. He moved quickly, gathering his supporters among the nobles. They marched to the throne room together, a show of unified opposition to the king's command. Father, Rethic said, his voice echoing in the chamber, I must formally challenge your order to attack human space. This war is not in the Empire's interest. It will cost us lives, resources, and honor, all for your personal pride. King Theron stood, his face twisted with fury. You dare challenge me? I am your king. You are, Rethic agreed. But even a king can be wrong. The Empire has laws. You taught me that. One of those laws says that the Council of Nobles can overrule a king's command if it threatens the Empire's survival. I believe this war does exactly that. Murmurs spread through the nobles assembled in the chamber. Some looked nervous, but many nodded in agreement. The king's obsession with his daughter's child had made him unstable. They had all seen it. The humans have offered peace, Rethic continued. They have shared their genetic research freely, showing us that thousands of our people who we declared infertile might actually have hope. They have done nothing but treat my sister with kindness and respect, and we repay this by threatening to steal her child and slaughter their people. This is not honor. This is tyranny. More nobles stepped forward, standing with Rethic. It was a coup, bloodless but absolute. King Theron looked around the chamber and saw he was isolated. Even his most loyal supporters were hesitant, unwilling to back him in this mad quest. You will regret this. Theron snarled at his son. All of you will regret betraying your king. No, father, Rethic said sadly. The only regret is that it came to this. I am removing you from command under Article 17 of Imperial Law. You will be given time to rest and recover from this obsession. The Empire needs stability, not war. On the Soul's promise, alarm suddenly went silent. The Valtorian fleet was holding position. It wasn't advancing. Something had changed. Ambassador Jiwoo's communicator lit up with an incoming message. It was Prince Rethic. Ambassador, he said, looking exhausted but relieved. I am contacting you as the acting ruler of the Valtorian Empire. My father has been removed from power due to his inability to rule rationally. I am ordering the fleet to withdraw. There will be no war. I apologize for the threat to your people and to my sister. I hope we can begin proper negotiations for a real alliance, built on mutual respect rather than threats. Jiwoo sat down heavily, hardly believing what she was hearing. Prince Rethic, your offer is accepted. We look forward to peaceful relations. When Nara heard the news, she collapsed in Daehyun's arms, sobbing with relief. It was over. The threat was gone. Her daughter would be born in peace. All across human space, celebrations erupted. They had stood firm against an empire and won, not through violence but through courage and principle. And they had gained an ally in the process. But the real victory was quieter, more personal. In her quarters, Nara sat with her hand on her stomach, feeling her daughter kick. She was safe. Her family was safe. And for the first time in her life, she was truly free.